Welcome everyone. This is the grand final between CableCarnage and Superninja, also known as Ruben, in our Netrunner February 2020 tournament. So this is game one. Let me just zoom in so we've got it right. Oh, I'll try and fix that in a second. But yeah, and with me today commentating is Sanjay. Sanjay, do you want to say hi?
Hello, everybody. Welcome. I'm very excited about this match. I've been looking forward to it amazingly. And one of the things I'm really excited about, actually, is CableCarnage, who's playing the run at the moment, Gabriel Santiago. He has crushed me untold times with Blue Sun. It's really exciting for me to see him play against Blue Sun, because I've never seen it before, you know?
Yeah. So I also had the either fortune or misfortune of drawing Dan in the first round. So I say misfortune because Dan is an absolute monster. So we're in round 5. He's played 8 games so far and he hasn't lost a single one. But I say fortune because Dan is super lovely and playing against him is always enjoyable and extremely educational.
Yes, it really is. And I believe this monster that we're talking about was created by you, Craig. Is that right?
Yeah, I taught him in his very first game. But it did not take long before he completely destroyed me every time. So, yeah. So let's just do a quick overview. So in this game, we've got Ruben, who is playing Blue Sun. He's playing the Corp. And we've got Dan, who is on Gabriel Santiago. So this tournament, if you aren't in the tournament or aren't aware, this is a limited card pool tournament designed for beginners. It's designed to provide a couple of things. Number one is a smaller card pool, so it's easier to learn the game. And 2, we do a team system and provide like a kind of community of experienced players to help beginner players get up to speed and start to play. So within this tournament, it's a 1 match a week of 2 games played over 5 weeks. And one of the reasons this is significant is because this means that both players know the IDs of the other player going into the tournament, and they've both had the opportunity to adjust their decks accordingly. So I'm not sure how significant that will be. Yeah, I guess given it's the grand final, they're probably both taking it quite seriously. But
yeah, I mean, to be honest, Dan is a very serious player. I mean, as in he's a fun player, but my goodness, does he like to win?
Oh, God, yeah.
I think he takes joy from the bleeding tears of his crushed victim. So I think we both beat those victims at various points. So you know.
Yeah,
Ooh.
Absolutely.
I'd like to start talking about the game if that's right. Just ask.
Yeah, let's go for it, Sanj. Let's go.
Okay, let's go. So Dan's just drawn Boomerang, actually. Now, Boomerang's a card I've never played before, so just a little bit about how it works and sort of how significant that is in the game, because I know that's a big piece that he's just drawn. Is that right?
Yeah, so there's 2 strong cards. As we've been playing each week, there's 2 cards that have really come out as incredibly strong within this limited card pool of System Core, Downfall and Uprising. One of them is Stargate, because there's very little recursion for the Corp, and the second one is Boomerang. So Boomerang allows you, when you install it, you select a piece of ice, and then you can trash Boomerang in order to break up to 2 subroutines on that targeted piece of ice. So it means there's a couple of downsides to it. So you have to do it when you install it. You have to choose the ice when you install it. So for example, if you install it and don't use it immediately, then the Corp might choose to trash the ice and then your Boomerang's stuck. You can't use the trash ability on it. You can only overinstall it with another Boomerang.
So if they overinstall the ice, you can't trash it and automatically to fish it back out. It's just stuck on the board.
Yeah, correct, yeah.
Oh, that's really interesting. And just curious here as well, just while we're watching this gameplay, why has Superninja installed public support without any protection? That seems like because the chances of that reaching 0 asset is very small, presumably.
Yeah, so well, I mean, first of all, the reason you can see is because he's got no ice in hand. So
oh well, that's true actually. Yeah, but he he installed his second piece of ice above server 1 to protect the Adonis over putting it in front of server 2.
Yeah, but the one point that he's going to get from public support, what's more important is that he has a server to get money and to score out of. So the public support is just a distraction. This isn't, he's just taxing clicks and creds on Dan by installing it. Dan has to check it because if it's something like an Atlas, he can't afford to let him sneak it out. So Ruben is doing this, or Superninja is doing this, just to tax clicks and creds. So you can see here, like, Dan is clearly digging for his key pieces really hard. Stuff is going to be going into the bin. We can see he's just drawn Sneak Door Beetle, which could be really significant here. But he is lacking money to break ice. He's, even though Boomerang is extremely efficient, it's still 2 creds, and he has to constantly play around Punitive Counter-Strike, which out of Blue Sun, because Blue Sun can make so much money so fast, that's a really, really big threat. And I think we can see here that Ruben has just recurred the Adonis back into hand to get the 4 creds from the res, and now he's going for that scoring window. So here, I'm not really sure what options Dan has. I think, Sneak Door could be possible, but contesting, even if he's got enough money to contest server 1, does he have enough to beat 2 punitive counter-strikes?
Yeah, you know what? Ruben's Super Ninja's on 29 creds with 2 in hand. And in fact, he has an archive. Oh no, he wouldn't be able to play the archive member to draw it back actually, but he does have 2 in hand actually. So actually, even if CableCarnage comes in and steals the SDS deployment in server 1, and if he did last turn, presumably he gets the punitive counter strike. Is that right?
Yeah. So if Dan had gone in and taken that SDS, it would have cost him all of his credits. Then, without being able to draw above 5 at the end of his turn, he most certainly would have been killed by Ruben with 2 punitives.
Oh, he just lost his book Galter, the Century Breaker. That's gone.
Yeah.
That is the heap. Boom. Does he have any way of recurring that back out, or do you know?
So in terms of recursion, there is retrieval run in the card pool, but Dan won't be running it. I mean, ultimately, I've spectated quite a lot of Dan's games, and he mostly just wins with Boomerang a lot of the time. So here we see that he's used the Boomerang to go into HQ. The Boomerang's broken the 2 subs on the Eli, and he's found a punitive. Now, yeah, there's 2 agendas in hand, so I feel like Dan is a little bit unlucky there, but it's certainly not the last time that he's going to run HQ. Now, one thing we didn't mention about the Boomerang before is that if the run is successful, the Boomerang gets shuffled back into your deck. So what Dan is doing is he's combining Boomerang with the Class Act, so he can, on install, find a bunch of cards with Class Act and draw up over his hand size at the end of the turn, which is one way to dodge a punitive if he has to, assuming he draws into another Class Act. But the other key thing is the first draw each turn, he will draw 2 cards and add one of them to the bottom. So he's going to be able to filter his stack pretty quickly, and with 3 Boomerangs in the stack, Ruben kind of has to play, assuming that Dan always has a Boomerang in hand.
Ah, okay, fine. And actually, as his stacks get smaller, with 3 Boomerangs recurring back into the stack, he's going to become increasingly likely to pull that Boomerang when he needs it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, what we're probably going to see...
stack of 3 cards.
It's just going to be a stack of 3 cards, basically. Yeah.
And boom, there's the Sneak Door Beta. Boom, he's into HQ.
Yeah.
That is because 2 in 5.
Yeah, so we can assume here, he finds a vulnerability.
Yes, boom, there it is. Oh my goodness. Sorry, I tried to get excited, but that's 3 points, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a kind of double smash as well, because Gabe is giving him 2 credits for that run, which is money that he can use to counter the punitive here. So there's Ruben. So punitive gives you a trace 5, and it's free to play. 3 credits to play. So you're already kind of, if you do a credit comparison between the Corp and the Runner, you're already +2, if that makes sense. So we can see here that because Dan has less money, and even if he had 1 credit more, it wouldn't be sufficient at 0 link. So Ruben can definitely land 1 punitive, but he can't land both. And I think with only 4 cards in hand for Dan, Ruben is not going to try to land either of them. So Archive Memories to recur the Adonis. The Adonis campaign will go back into server 1. There's no way Dan... I would be surprised if Dan contests that, but he certainly could. He will know what it is. But here, Ruben can then res it at the end of Dan's turn so that he can get the 3 credits at the start of his turn. And then, as soon as he decides that he wants to score out of that remote, he can use Blue Sun to bring it back into hand, get the money back, and then jam an agenda.
Wow, that is a pretty powerful combo, actually. That Adonis and Blue Sun. I've never seen that before.
Yeah, it's very, very good. So Blue Sun can be, it just says add, let me read the ID here. So when your turn begins, you may add one res card to HQ and gain credits equal to its res cost. So that's assets or ice.
Yeah.
And it has the added benefit as well of if you draw more ice later in the game, you've got options to kind of rearrange your ice as well. So if you draw into a toll booth and you're getting hammered on R&D, you can kind of pull a res card off of R&D, getting the money back for the res cost. Then you can install your new ice on R&D, saving the 1 credit of the install that you would otherwise have to pay if an existing piece of ice was there. So Blue Sun, similarly to actually like Dan's criminal deck, where Dan can go from 5 creds to kind of 22 creds in a turn, Blue Sun can also actually, if they've got big ice rest on the table, they can bring it back to hand and suddenly the kill is very real.
Yeah. Wow, that's pretty exciting stuff, actually, isn't it? Something I've always wondered about Gabriel Santiago is that surely you always know where he's going to go because it's HQ he gets the money from. So it's a bit like, it always felt a bit to me like you're signaling to the Corp immediately, hey Corp, this is where you need to place your ice. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. And that's really something we've actually seen in previous Netrunnargh tournaments where the card pool was much smaller and we didn't have like these kind of crazy powerful cards that we've got in Downfall and Uprising. And actually Gabe was a real underdog there. Now, going into this tournament, we also thought that Gabe was an underdog here as well. So Dan is one of the most accomplished players, and we now have a tradition when he plays in the Netrunnargh tournament, because it's a beginner's tournament, I buy him whiskey and then I choose his IDs. And so
that's pretty funny.
He came down to Cologne. I bought him a drink, and then we were later chatting on Slack about it as well. And I gave him Spark and Gabe, and we both agreed that there were enough interesting build options in there to let Dan, do his thing and have a really good time in the tournament. But they weren't going to be super overpowered. So within this card pool, I've kind of tried to shy experienced players away from playing, Leela and other identities which are less fun for beginners to play with. So, Dan was playing at a disadvantage. He didn't even pick these IDs, and he hasn't lost a whole game over 4 rounds.
Yeah. Wow, that's pretty impressive, isn't it?
So let's have a look at the board state, if that's okay.
Yeah. Can I ask a quick question actually as well about the board state?
Sure.
Superninja just a minute ago used his ID ability at the beginning of his last turn to pull the Eli back into hand, but then he reinstalled it in the same position.
Yep.
It forced Dan to use his inside job, I guess. I assume he did it so that what the ice was. Am I right? Is that why he did it?
Yeah, I'm really not sure. Maybe if Ruben wants more money, if you think about it, he's getting 3 creds and then it's a click to reinstall. So 1 click for 3 creds is great. So just on economics alone, it makes sense. But additionally, he may want to ruse Dan into thinking that it's a different piece of ice. Additionally, that extra 3 creds may put him on a credit level above where he put him on a credit level that he needs. So for example, if he needs double the credits of Dan to do a double punitive, maybe that 3 credit differential is actually what gives it to him. So okay.
Yeah. So it makes absolute sense, particularly because Dan's going to have to contest server 1 now, I assume.
Dan's just installed a Stargate. So Dan already knows that that's a Winchester there. Because he's seen it before and seen that it got de-resed by Blue Sun. So he knows that he only has to break 2 subroutines, which he's done with the Boomerang. Now here, Stargate, for those of you who don't know it, says run R&D. If successful, instead of accessing, you look at the top 3 cards, and one of those, the runner can trash one of those. And in this meta, in our small card pool, there's very little recursion. Which means that Stargate has become incredibly powerful. We've seen this particularly with runners like Hoshiko, where they combine it with Ice Destruction, which means when the Corp invests to try and keep the runner out, actually what happens is they just blow up that ice and the investment is gone. So This is an interesting situation here. So there's a 1 in 5 to find the punitive, to find the priority rec. Now, Dan's actually chosen to ignore the server 1 install, which is an SDS drone deployment, we can see. and it's protected by a reduced service. So reduced service says when you res this upgrade, you may pay up to 4 creds to place that many power counters on it. As an additional cost to run the server, the runner must pay 2 creds for each hosted power counter. Whenever the runner makes a successful run on central server, remove 1. So Dan, by running those centrals, has been whittling down the reduced service, but unfortunately he couldn't then continue to contest server 1, and so Ruben has got another score there. Now, it's going to be interesting to see. We saw last turn that I think it was IPO, Adonis, and something else that got revealed on Stargate.
It was actually the another punitive counter after the next turn. So they'll be at the top of this deck right now. So we'll see that in a moment. There's the punitive, Spiderweb, and Eli. I didn't know about the Spiderweb and Eli. It'll be the first time we've seen that.
Yeah, I think so. So 1 got done on the mandatory draw, and 1 got trashed. So with each repeated Stargate, you're seeing 1 card from the previous set and 2 new ones. So it's interesting, the credit differential here, 26 creds for Superninja, 16 for CableCarnage. Now I think that is going to make it very, very... If Ruben installed double advance as the priority rec, he is not going to be able to punitive, I don't think.
Oh, access the priority rec. Boom. Sorry. Yeah. Wow. Look at that. It's gone.
Absolutely. And like Ruben doesn't really want to be spending 6 clicks to win on 9 points either. But it's interesting here. So what we can see is Dan, so he installs the class act at the end of his turn, drawing him up to a hand size of 8 and basically turning off the double punitive counter strike. Now Ruben has withdrawn into the third.
So he's got 3. So he could play all 3.
Yeah, but I mean, he's got a boost. So on 0 link,
it's not going to kill him, is it?
No. So on 0 link, he needs to, with 15 creds, he needs to boost by 11. So it's going to be 14 for each punitive. And even if he had the ability to get 2 creds with a single click, the double punitive wouldn't kill. So yeah, here Ruben unfortunately hasn't been able to get the punitive kill. Dan is stargating constantly, so Ruben is drawing through the Stargate. So now Dan has to worry that Superninja has taken an agenda out of R&D and keeping it in hand, but the final click to ice R&D may indicate that he hasn't found anything. I guess we'll see what Dan thinks on his next turn. But also, Dan now has a handful of cards. I don't know how much he's going to want to run this turn, or if he's just going to choose to set up.
Because he can reinstall his Sentry Breaker now. He's got that there. The MU for it.
Now he's got...
We'd have to give...
Oh, now he's drawn into the Book of Hal. So yeah, you're right there, Sanj.
Yeah.
I don't think Dan really cares about that. With 3 boomerangs in hand, I think he's basically just going to probably keep the emergency shutdown in hand, the 3 boomerangs, and maybe 1 other card. Paladin is so great in this deck because it's giving you money to install your boomerangs, but Dan's found it really late, unfortunately.
Oh yeah, so then you install it for free.
Yeah. Yes. So Dan's checking archives. There's some face downs there, and additionally he's going to be getting the data sucker token for it as well.
Okay, right, okay. Tokens means Eli can be brought down to 2 strength, so it's only 2 to break at that point, isn't it, with his Corroder?
Yeah, correct.
Okay, so how much do you think Superninja's going to boost the trace on this? No. What did he do? Did he break it?
Yeah, because he'd already boomeranged it.
Oh, fine. Okay, and actually he wants to boomerang in the stack, actually, because he's got 2 boomerangs in hand.
Yeah, exactly. So I think we can see that Superninja's put a Hadrian's Wall on the outside of R&D. Now that, to get through that with Corroder is extremely expensive. So it's going to cost 5 for the boost and 2 for the break. But with Boomerang, it's just 2 credits.
Boomerang.
So
wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, so it's pretty strong. But I mean, I don't know. I guess Dan did see the Hadrian's Wall on one of the Stargate runs. Yeah, so here Ruben's drawn into the Oversight AI, so he can put the Oversight, he could use the Oversight on the Hadrians, but then it's too easy to break with Boomerang and he's going to lose her. Here, he goes for the install instead, so he could potentially be trying to bait this run with the reduced service, because if he can find an Atlas, he can install it and then score it next turn without advancing it. Dan seems to be sticking to plan and playing the Stargate, but without having installed the boomerang.
Yeah. So now that's going to cost him. How much is that going to cost him to get through? Strength 7.
Yeah, 7, and then with the Booker turrets, 3 for the boost, 2 for the break, but he gets 2 back, so it's a total cost of 10 credits. And then we'll see here now if Adonis campaign, Hadrian's Wall and Winchester. So if there'd been an agenda here, Dan could have trashed it and then run archives and picked it up, but he hasn't found it. But unfortunately for Ruben, that means that Ruben isn't finding the agendas either. In addition, now the Hadrian's Wall has been exposed, Dan knows that he can get past that for the cost of a boomerang.
Yeah, and he can just bang on it, can't he? Can I ask a question? He decided to trash the Paladin Homiu, which he would have been able to use to install the boomerang for free. But that was one of the cards he discarded. Why do you think he'd do that? Oh, wow, sorry. He just shut down the Hadrian's Wall. That's expensive.
Yeah. So, I think Paladin. So basically, you want Paladin at the start of the game. That's where you're going to kind of save your money. And I just think that there's other key pieces that are more important to Dan at the moment, like the emergency shutdown, etc. So emergency shutdown not only kind of damages Ruben's ability, like not only damages Ruben's economy because now he's paid 10 to res a Hadrian's Wall, and if he wants to res it again, he's got to pay another 10. But in addition, it turns off his Blue Sun ability on that card.
Yeah. So next turn he could have brought it back to hand and gained that, but of course then he couldn't.
Yeah.
He'd already. Yeah. Okay, that's really interesting. Oh, Dan's got a legwork in hand. I mean, there's nothing in HQ, of course, but.
Yeah, but I think Dan has now seen sufficient cards in HQ to know that that's probably not where the win is here, and I think with the res of the Adonis in Server 1, Dan now knows that that's not an agenda. So I imagine what we're going to see Dan do is now double down on his attacks on R&D. There's only 11 cards left. Ruben's drawn into the priority requisition, and that is tough because he does not want to install double advance that in the remote and have to spend 6 clicks trying to score it out.
Yeah.
The ice on the remote is a sentry that isn't really going to do much. In fact, I think what's he going to be 1-2, 1-2. Dan gets through that for 2 creds net, and then we've got barriers, which are only going to be a total of 5 credits to get through. So although the remote looks imposing, it's actually quite cheap. But yeah, and the other problem here obviously is whenever I play punitive in any deck, once they get to 6 points, that next agenda wins them the game, and at that point your punitives are completely useless.
Okay,
and that
so
nearly
actually
always
doesn't
happens to
matter
me.
anymore.
Yeah, so we can see here that he's gone for the jam, and he's actually I think he overwrote the Adonis in Server 1 as well.
He overwrote the Adonis, so he just lost it. The other thing he did, he overwrote one of the ice walls to put the new spiderweb in on the outside of that server.
Yeah, correct. So that's going to take the cost to run through those up to 7 credits for the Corroder, and then it's got the Caduceus as well. So Dan needs to initially pay 4 to break that, and he'll get 2 back. So he's going to need 11 credits to get into that server, ignoring the reduced service, which Ruben has chosen not to res. My guess is that Ruben will double advance this turn and also res the reduced service. But yeah, like as the Corp, you never want to be winning with 9 points. You want to be finding your atlases and winning in a much more click efficient way. But Ruben's just not finding any of his agendas, which does mean R&D. I mean, if we do a quick total of the points, we've got 6, 12, 15 points on the board. So I guess there's only another 5 points in R&D. I would assume it's going to be either a 2-pointer and 3 hostiles, or it's going to be 2 hostiles and another 3-pointer.
So Dan has going to have to make a decision here, if I understood this right, that he can either have R&D or he can go for Server 1, but he can't do both.
Yeah, correct. And
Superninja hasn't res the reduced service. That's really interesting.
Yeah, so Dan definitely needs to set up, and he would have a window to res it before Dan runs, because if Dan's not on 11 credits, Superninja knows he can't break it, so there's no need for him to res it. But Dan's doubling down here on the Stargate.
So it's just now, what does he get? Does he get it or does he not?
Yeah, I think it's all gonna really just come down to this access.
There's
off the top.
Oh, that is GG. With 4 credits left. Wow. Oh, and he wins on 9 points. That is pretty crazy, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a really interesting deck. So yeah, I guess this is only running 5 frees and then 2 hostiles, but I can't see any DRM either, which makes me wonder how hard it is to find those agendas. But ultimately, Ruben, I think Ruben's only dropped 1 game over the tournament, so obviously it's working.
Yeah. Wow, that was pretty exciting, wasn't it? Actually, and again, there's Dan. If Dan, just curious, if Dan hadn't found the agenda in R&D, would he had the capability to get into server 1? I mean, he's got a stim hack there, doesn't he?
No, he needs. he does have the stim hack, so he needs 11 credits, but then that is ignoring the reduced service.
So the reduced service adds another how much?
So it's going to add another cost of 8 creds. And the reason Ruben didn't res it at the start is so that Dan couldn't chip away at the tokens on it by running the centrals. But the danger then is, if Dan's on 3 credits and he just goes for it, he can play a stim hack from hand, and then Ruben has lost that window to res the reduced service. And I think because it says when you res this upgrade, blah blah blah. Whenever the runner as an additional cost to run the server, the runner must pay 2 creds for each hosted counter. So that means at the start of the run that he has to pay. So if Ruben reses it during the run, there's no additional cost whereas Kayambe Grid actually is at the point where it's successful, so you can res that later. Anyway, let's take a quick break, Sanch, and we'll jump into the second game.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.